Welcome to the second week of our Splatterhouse retrospective series on RetroReactive. Now, last week we did our very first episode of the show, and it was on Splatterhouse, the arcade game that was released by Namco into arcades in 1988. This week is going to be Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti, which was released about a year later and is a sort of spin-off to the series. Now, if you haven't watched the first video, I recommend you go watch that before you watch this one. This one will still be here. That one will be there. You should watch that one first before you jump into this one, just because this one might spoil the events of the first one just a teensy-weensy little bit. But if you're joining me again this week and you've already seen last week's video, well, then what can I say? Let's just jump into it. Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti was the second game to be released in the Splatterhouse series, but it's not really a sequel, it's more of a spin-off of the series. It was released about a year after the arcade original came out, and was released to the Japanese Famicom, and unfortunately never got a Western release, so. The game shares some elements with the rest of the series, the zombies, some of the horror aspects, the horror influences it takes, but beyond that, it's not going to have a lot of blood and gore in it because, well, one, because of the hardware it was on, and two, because it was meant to be a super deformed version of the game. It's cartoonish, it's lighthearted, it's fun. The gameplay in this game takes the violence down quite a few levels, but it also turns up the tongue-in-cheek humor by just as many levels, if not more. Now, you're not going to be beating down zombies with meat cleavers and 2x4s or anything like that. You'll just be cutting zombies in half with an axe, which is pretty funny when you say it, but it's really different. Now, seeing it as a Splatterhouse game, Rick and Jennifer are still here, but they look more chibi-esque compared to their realistic look in the other games. And the game itself is more of a platformer. It's not straight left to right beat 'em up like the first one was, like with Streets of Rage or Final Fight. It's a platformer, like Ninja Gaiden. The biggest change that comes, though, is an experience system, which basically acts as a counter in the top left corner that counts up how many enemies you kill. Once you get to whatever the number is on the counter, your health bar will go up a level, and the counter will reset, and then you start doing it all over again. Eventually, you're going to max out your life bar, but it will take a lot of time. As for the story itself, it's the same old evil monster kidnaps the girlfriend plot. You know, when you start, the villain takes your girl away, and yeah, it's Mario Brothers recycled, okay? You know, in other news, the grass is green, the sky is blue, and water makes things wet. But it is a good excuse to go around kicking the shit out of monsters, so. When you first hit start, you're taken to a little cutscene of a woman in a pink dress crying next to a grave. A few seconds later, a lightning bolt strikes the grave, explodes open, and a tiny little masked figure sits up. Now, it should be obvious from the get-go, this is Rick, and the woman that's crying next to his grave is Jennifer. Now, after this, lightning also strikes the grave next door, and the game's villain, the evil Pumpkin King, rises from his grave in a very flamboyant fashion, and then kidnaps Jennifer. And then we go to a little level screen, which says Stage 1, and it has this really ominous message. It's really, really odd. The first level is a graveyard. Move to the right, jump over open graves that for some reason have little rocky spikes, and the first enemy you're going to encounter are blue zombies. One swipe of these guys will cut them right in half, and you'll carry on. And then shortly after, those crosses will come to life, and they'll want to give you the Roman treatment. A bit way through the level, you'll encounter a stage. Once you get there, you'll hear something very, very familiar. Yeah, you hear that? It's a direct parody of Michael Jackson's Thriller. Now what happens here is that theme will start that very iconic thriller theme will start, and it's rendered in 8-bit glory. If this doesn't set the tone of the game right off the bat, then nothing else in this game will. This is the first boss you fight, and he's dancing. I'm sorry, the fight itself is pretty simple. Dracula is dancing around the stage. He's moonrocking. Oh my god. You'll continue on. You'll go into another house, and you're gonna face a bookshelf that comes to life and starts throwing books at you. Poltergeist bullshit again. And then after this little boss, you'll likely have leveled up your EXP bar a couple of times already, by the way. And you'll fight the real boss, an evil doll. The doll goes all exorcist on you. Its head spins around, and then its head comes off and starts floating around. And then the chairs start floating around too. And that's the final boss, or not the final stage boss, not the final boss, fuck. The final stage boss. You'll fight the head, and then you'll destroy the chairs as you're doing it. That's usually the best thing you're gonna do. You're gonna destroy the chairs, you'll attack the head when it swoops down, and then you kill the doll and leave. And that's the end of stage 1. Stage 2. Be garbage of cesspool. Stage 2 opens up in a small platforming room where you have to climb up platforms, fight a couple of spiders, and then you go across to a boss room that has an oven in it that spawns chickens. Yeah. First we have Disco Dracula, and then now there's chickens coming out of an oven. The chickens aren't the boss, though. The 2 knives are the boss. A bit like our first arcade game. After you beat the boss, the room will start shaking, and then, boom, floor goes out. And then you'll fall 2 or 3 different floors. You won't be able to do anything about it. This is going to happen. And then you'll come to the sewer. This area is actually pretty fun. Once you get to the end of the stage, you have to jump on the platform, because that's where the boss is. This boss is actually a pain in the ass. You have to find a rhythm between moving forward and killing the rats, because one hit, you get sent back. If you jump, you get sent back. You have to walk the entire way. You can't jump, can't do anything, you can't get hit. When you get close enough, you strike him. And yeah, that's it. Kinda anticlimactic, really. Once you cut him in half, that's it. Stage 3. Welcome to Deviltown. Right off the bat, you come out of the sewer that you were in earlier to kill the rat, and then you'll end up on the street. It kind of looks like Haddonfield, New Jersey, but instead of Michael Myers, you're going to have Pumpkinhead monsters that jump around, spit little mini pumpkins at you, and sometimes they don't do anything except spit little mini pumpkins at you. These guys are actually going to be really common from here on out. At the end of the street, you're going to enter a house that has another platform challenge, kind of like the one in Stage 2. But once you get through the end here, you're going to fight with a chainsaw. You're actually going to fight 2 chainsaws. And then, it's on to the real boss fight through the door. This room directly parodies the Alien film series. Long, orange spiders break out of her body and start floating around and jumping on the ceiling and on the floor and start attacking you. It's actually really funny. It's like a fucking clown car for tarantulas. As the fight goes on, you're gonna have to kill about 40 to 50 of these. I'm not sure of the actual number. But after you kill them and there's no more spiders, the woman's chest heals back up, and then she wakes up as if she was in taking a nap. And then stands up and walks out of the fucking room. Like, what the fuck? This woman was on a table, had 48 spiders jump out of her body, and then she wakes up as if it was nothing. Like, yep, yeah, I'm feeling amazing. Oh my god. After this room, you go back out to the street, and then you'll hear a really annoying dinging sound effect. This is where Stage 3's boss resides. Inside the church, there's going to be more zombies to kill as you walk down, and you'll meet this little gentleman called Pagan. And then eventually, he will step on the pentagram himself and turn himself into a bull. This fight is a bit difficult to pin down. It's not hard, but there's a certain pattern to how he moves. There's a certain pattern to when he jumps and when he doesn't jump. And once you figure that out, again, like every other boss that has a pattern, this one has a certain pattern as well. But if you get good, if you figure it out quick enough, you can actually pin him in the corner and not take any damage yourself. I forgot, Pagan isn't the final stage boss. You go back out onto the street yet again, fight more pumpkin head goons, and then you enter the real last house. And you face the real stage boss. This entire fight is based off of The Fly, the horror movie The Fly. And you're fighting a purple fly. This fight is a little odd. It's kind of goofy in the sense that the boss himself doesn't actually attack. He sends out his purple little fly goons that will attack you, and then every so often he'll decide to swoop down and try to hit you. Your goal is to hit him before he hits you and kill the little flies that he spits out at you. Stage 4, Diamond Lake. Diamond Lake. Yeah, do I need to spell this one out? An obvious homage to the Friday the 13th series, namely Crystal Lake. It's more than a little on the nose in its naming. But the level itself is pretty fun. Mostly involves jumping from dock to dock over the water while avoiding the zombies and the water monsters that want to kill you, but you can actually take the water the entire way. If you so choose, I mean, you don't have to, but it's fun if you want to go at a snail's pace. You'll get across the water, go through a house, and then onto the other side of the lake, you'll eventually face sharks in a lake. Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. But you'll go through the shark area, you're going to be jumping and dodging the sharks, and then you'll get to the end of the level. And this is where the boss fight takes place. And this is a very, very interesting boss fight. One, because there's no music at all. It's silent. But there's a little monster in the back, a big silhouette of an evil monster with a fork and a knife. And then the lightning flashes again, and the forked being shows up and throws rocks at you, and then teleports away and stabs at the ground with a fork. When you finally take him down after, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 shots, I forget the actual count, he'll go into a bit of a frenzy, and then he'll start dissipating into nothingness. It's a really good effect. That fight is actually one of my favorites in this particular game. Just because of its out-of-nowhere presentation, the fact that there's no music, and the fact that the guy's holding a knife and a fork. It's amazing. Stage 5 is Diamond Camp. After Stage 4, which was Diamond Lake. Yeah, the logical extension of Diamond Lake is Diamond Camp. You know, Crystal Lake, Camp Crystal Lake, Diamond Camp. Yeah, I'm not going to draw it in crayon. You don't need me to. This is more of a forest level than anything else. And a couple of new creatures are introduced. One is the hanging bodies, which really aren't hanging bodies. They're more like heads on a rope, and the bodies just drop down and come to life. And the heads spit rocks at you. And then there are blue spiders that jump over in certain areas and spit rocks at you. Why does everything spit rocks in this fucking game? Like, is that what everybody's base weapon is? Are they ripping off Friday the 13th, that NES game as well, where everybody starts with a rock and they haven't grabbed a knife or a lighter or anything? Fuck. There's also scream paintings that you'll find in the house. Yeah, scream paintings, like the old painting, the Edvard Munch painting, Scream. You'll know what I mean when you see them. Outside the door, it's more of the same. Spiked logs, spiked pits, bats, floating bodies that spit rocks at you before you get to the final house. Then, when you first enter the house, there's one more room you have to go through with buckets and spike pits. And if you're unlucky enough, one of the buckets can fall on your head, and that will stay on your head the rest of the level. Which is actually kind of funny, fighting the boss with a bucket on your head. But in the boss room, you're going to find a little kid. And then there's a full moon that creeps out, and then the kid turns into a werewolf. It's whatever. I was expecting more from the Diamond Camp joke than a werewolf, but you know what? The werewolf is just as fun. This boss is actually pretty simple. He walks left and right, and every time you hit him, he'll charge up his little energy sphere, and 2 rocks will flow out from the energy sphere. Yeah, rocks, big surprise. Once he's beaten, the werewolf demutates, the little boy comes back, and then the wolf spirit that you killed, or freed, or whatever, floats away in his little wolf head. Stage 6, Hell House on the Hill. Now, this stage is one long platform challenge. You start at the bottom of a cliff and have to work your way up the hillside. It's really self-explanatory, actually. But just because it's self-explanatory doesn't mean it's easy. The pumpkin heads make a return. Bats are going to be throughout the entire level. And there's one little section where you fight fireballs again. They're not a very big threat, if important at all. They're just there. The largest part of the level involves trying to cross different bridge sections that will collapse if you stand on them too long. Take that to mean longer than half a bloody second. The trouble with this is the bats. The fucking bats will knock you down repeatedly. And if they don't knock you off the bridge, they will knock you back into the same spot you were standing in, and the bridge will collapse on you. Now, if you fall off the bridge, you're going to have to restart back, not at the beginning of the level, but at the bottom of the hillside. And that's also bad because you'll actually lose half of whatever EXP you had at the time. So that's really bad, especially if you're not leveled up and you want to level up your health bar. Falling off the bridge will set you back a lot. Once you get across the main bridge area, there's a couple more cliffs to climb up with bubbling pools of sludge. And then there's pumpkin heads and bats. And then you'll come to the Hell House. The screen will kind of go dark. You'll see the ground. You'll see Rick walking across the black background, and then the house will appear again. And that's the end of the level. No boss, no shortcuts, nothing. Well, stage 7, the Hell House. This is it. This is where everything's been leading up to. You first arrive in the hall with the little spiked gates that you've been encountering the entire game that always come up out of the floor. There's an evil dead hand on a bookshelf that you can't actually kill, and he's throwing plates at you. And at the end of this particular section, there's a hole in the ground that will drop you into an underground. When you jump down here, you find Pagan, the hooded figure you fought in the church of stage 3. He's back. He's not dead either. Now, if you attack him or you get too close, Pagan will grab you and will throw you into a pumpkin head that eats you. And it kills you. No, I'm just kidding. Now, once the pumpkin eats you, it'll play it off like you got killed, like you got a game over. But what really happened is you're transported to a different room, and you wake up in a coffin. Now, when you leave here, you'll go through 2 rooms. The first one is another chainsaw fight, similar to an earlier level. And then there's a hallway with fire pits and the purple fly mutants, similar to the fly that you fought in stage 2. Well, he's back, and you have to fight more of them. Beyond that, there's also a hall with clocks that shoot clock hands at certain angles. And then there's the room with more fire pits and floating skulls. And then there's another room with pits and bats. It's really simple. Going through, explaining all the parts of the level really, really fast because there's nothing really to them. And after this room, you go into another room with more screen paintings. These guys, again, they're annoying, I'm sorry. Before you enter the final hallway. Now, this hallway here is what you'd call a safe room, so to speak. There's no enemies here. Nothing's gonna try and... It's a safe room. And at the end, you will find a soda machine. You can press up and drink a soda. So after you do that, top up your health, and then you enter the final door. Now this is where everything pretty much comes to an end. This is the room where you fight the Pumpkin King. Now, the Pumpkin King fight is actually my second favorite fight after the Fork Knife Demon of Diamond Lake. And this dude appears after his voodoo magic lights up the room in multiple colors. And it's pretty simple. He'll appear, spin around, and spit 6 pumpkin seeds that bounce along the floor. These pumpkin seeds were spit by the other pumpkin men, so you should know what they are. And then he'll begin floating around the room casually, and if you don't hit him quick enough, he'll stop, do another spin, and spit more pumpkin seeds out at you. And this is what he does for the entire fight, until you hit him. And then once you hit him, he'll fall apart, he'll bring himself back together really quickly, and then go into a frenzy, bouncing around the room all invincible and invisible and everything. But once he's done going on his invisible frenzy, he'll go back to his original pattern. He'll appear somewhere. Usually it'll be either close to you or close to where you were if you move fast enough. And then he'll repeat the process again. He'll spin around, or he'll appear, he'll spin around, he'll spit out the pumpkin seeds, and then he'll go to floating. And this fight is going to be pretty long, actually. It's going to be one of the more in-depth and longer fights because it takes a good 16 hits to actually kill him. And in between all of the pumpkin seed dodging and avoiding him as he floats around, it does take a few good minutes. Once you beat the Pumpkin King, his shattered body will erupt into nothingness, and little pumpkins will erupt out of him, and then Rick saves Jennifer. And then, yeah, the lights turn out, the lights turn back up. Apparently, it was all just a movie. Rick is standing in the stage, a very goofy-looking director appears, starts talking to Rick, saying, "Hey, you did a good job acting," starts shaking his hand and laughing and all that good shit. And then Rick takes the mask off, and Rick looks very goofy. But Rick takes the mask off, which is probably nothing but a prop, I mean, it's a movie, and then walks off stage. And then the mask comes to life. Yeah, the mask comes to life. It starts laughing at you, and then the room starts shaking, and it does its telekinesis, showboating bullshit. And then the credits roll. Now, setting aside the fact that the ending of the game basically says it's all a movie, why the fuck? What the hell is going on? It's one of the things you're questioning. What the fuck is going on? And why is the mask doing its shit? Was it the real terror mask, or was it a prop that just so happened to come to life? And why the fuck was there a movie being made in the first place? Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's never explained. There's no reason for it to have been explained. It's just happening. And it doesn't need explaining. And that's it. But no, actually, there is a bit more. There are a couple of secret stages in the game that, if you manage to find, you can get a special secret ending if you find the 2 hidden orbs. The first of the 2 secret stages is in the first hidden exit in stage 3. Instead of going into the right pod to exit the level after you kill the fly, you go into the left, and you'll get transported to Japan. Now, in this level, the goal is just to get to the end. There's no boss, there's a few enemies. And the point of the Japan level is to just climb up a building. And then, once you get up to the top of the building, you go inside and go to the end of the hall. It's the same fare as before. And then you go through a door. And then, once you get to the end, you're going to watch this geisha doing a dance, and then she'll give you the crystal ball. Unless, of course, you're deciding to be an asshole. There's a little trick that I figured out during one of my random playthroughs, not for gathering footage, but for a while ago, that if you press the B button, Rick can fart. It's really fucking crude, but it is hysterical. You just push the B button every so often, and Rick farts. And if you do that enough during the dance, the woman will get pissed off at you, yell at you for being rude, and then tell you to get out with the crystal orb. Like, she's not even nice at that point. And the second hidden stage is just at the beginning of the Hell House. Remember, the hallway with Pagan? Well, instead of trying to get in front of him or get too close or attack him, just follow him. And then, once he gets to the end, he'll pass by a wooden door. You go through that door, you get to the second secret stage. You don't get eaten by the pumpkin, you go to the secret stage. Which is, get this, in Egypt. What the fuck, dude? What the fuck, Namco? Why Egypt? Again, this level is straightforward, though. You go through the Egyptian pyramid, you avoid the trapdoors, which, I mean, there's shotguns, and there's candy, which bait you into stepping on the trapdoors. But once you go through all the doors, you avoid the bats and then the floating Egyptian heads, and you'll find an Egyptian woman. She'll say, "Welcome to Egypt," and then she'll give you the second crystal orb. Now, you need both of these. And once you get both of the orbs and you finish the game, you'll get two special ending screens. One showing Rick and Jen sitting together happy on a hill, and the second one shows them running towards a mansion during a rainstorm. Does that sound familiar? If you saw last week's video, it is definitely going to be familiar. Now, seeing as the orbs aren't actually orbs, they're just crystal balls, it's kind of like a, fortune-telling thing, so it doesn't really confirm that the game is a prequel or is even really related to the main series, but it hints in that direction, and it's really interesting to think about. And it adds an eerie layer on top of the rest of the game, which is, so intentionally over the top and just so far out there that it's just for comedic effect. Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti is a game that I never actually really played. I mean, I played a ROM back when I was also playing the very first Splatterhouse arcade game, which was about 12 years ago, but I never got far, never had an interest in getting far, so doing this video was the first time I ever went through it completely. And it really is fun. It's fucking hysterical, and it's a really good game. It's a really good platformer. I can't embellish that fact in the slightest, either. It is a major sidestep from the series, and it's so tongue-in-cheek it's practically licking the fucking wallpaper, and in a certain sense, it's also taking the piss from the very game series that was already tongue-in-cheek to begin with, due to the numerous nods to horror franchises and stories that inspired much of the series' atmosphere. And it's fucking glorious. The game is fucking glorious in the fact that it is all of these things. I mean, think about it. You fight a boss that is literally a video game representation of The Fly. There's a room in the game where you fight alien spiders that burst out of a woman's chest in a lab, and then the woman wakes the fuck up and walks away. Like she was taking a nice nap, and the aliens bursting out of her was just, casual, every night event. You have a pagan priest dressed in a reappropriated clan hood that turns into a bull, and then later on feeds you to a fucking pumpkin. Oh, and let's talk about Diamond Lake, the increasingly obvious sine wave to Camp Crystal Lake of the Friday the 13th series. It's a lake filled with fucking sharks, with the boss of the level being a ghost that wants to eat you for dinner with his fork and his knife. You with me so far? And if those weren't enough, how many games do you know of that features Dracula rising up out of a lit stage in a graveyard and does a fucking Michael Jackson routine complete with the music? And not just doing the dance routine, but throwing out peace signs and moonwalking across the fucking stage in a bright red coat that was ripped directly from Thriller. The game is fucking awesome just because of the Dracula fight alone. But the rest of it is just... it's so obvious that it's just poking fun at everything. And it's just so amazing. It really is a really good game for a spin-off. It's fucking amazing. So, if you could do yourself a favor, hunt a way to play this game down. In any way that you can. It's worthwhile. Even if you haven't played the Splatterhouse series before, this game is a good entry point. It's worth the price of admission to just play. So, that was a lot of fun to make. That was a lot of fun watching again, too. So, if you made it this far, 1, let me say thank you, and 2, you're awesome if you did make it this far, so that really helps. That's really awesome. There's no special trailer for next week's video, just because I didn't get around to making it in time. Because this video actually got a bit of a delay because of personal stuff. I was supposed to release it yesterday, and I'm probably not going to release it until either Saturday night or really early Sunday morning. But next week will be Splatterhouse 2, and I'm going to be jumping on that as soon as I upload this and get everything done. By the time this is uploaded, you've probably viewed it. I'll have started and be about a quarter of the way to halfway done with next week's video. So, but enough rambling. If you made it this far, thank you very much. Please, spread the word, share. I'm not normally going to go on a tangent and say, like, share, subscribe, and all that nonsense. But, if you do like what you see, at least in this video, share it with your friends that love horror, because that's why I'm doing this. It's October, and I love this fucking series. I love the horror, I love the humor, and I've never actually seen too many in-depth videos on Splatterhouse. So. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week.